You know, sometimes I ponder a lot of things, and on this Toy Fair 2018 weekend, I kind of have a quick question for you folks. One that I've wondered about for a long time, and I've wanted to kind of address for a long time, so we're going to do it right now. Is the face of third-party collecting changing? And what do I mean by that? Pretty simple. You see, I feel like you're seeing a lot more price cuts, and you're seeing certain KO companies begin to take a different strategy. Is KO becoming the new face of third party? Stick around because I want to just kind of ask you guys that question, explain my reasoning just a little bit, and I guess sort of grade where third party collecting is going in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share. Most importantly, now I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button, join the community, have your say. So, I just asked a simple question. Maybe not so simple. Is the face of third-party collecting changing? Now hear me out. Traditionally, here's kind of the way things went. We had first-party companies putting out the, official toys. And then we had two things happening. We had a demand for better paint apps, or more involved engineering, or bigger sizes, or, we were given, say, in the Transformers line, a deluxe or Voyager class figure, and people wanted it as a masterpiece. And third-party companies started to kind of fill that. And thus we see the rise of things like KFC, TFC toys, Make toys or Make toys, depending on your pronunciation. I call it Make toys. Unique toys, DX9, Fans Project, Fans Toys, and so on and so forth. And they've all brought very interesting things to the table, sometimes over-engineered, but sometimes spot-on perfect. And they've all sort of built a reputation over time. We also had KO toys. We've always had them our whole lives. They're those cheap knockoff versions of things that we know and love, that we've seen for very reduced prices in places like dollar stores and thrift shops and so on and so forth. It's not a new thing. So you kind of had three tiers. The cheap knockoff, that might break 5 minutes after you get it. The kind of official version that appeals to the masses. And then we had third parties that really appeal to collectors. They were sold at a premium price, sometimes very premium, and understandably so because of everything that went into it and the fact that they're smaller companies working on a different type of budget. But in recent times I feel like I've seen a couple of things happening that are changing that. First, when it comes to kind of official releases, in the Transformers line, we've seen it from Hasbro a little bit. We've definitely seen it from Takara, where those prices seem to be going up and up. To the point now where no longer does it feel like third-party companies are charging a premium. In fact, they seem to be exactly in line with what is being charged officially. Just look at the cost, for example, of MP36 Megatron. Now, granted, he probably had a justification because of the paint used and the engineering and whatnot. I'm not here to debate that. But for his price tag, there are third-party options out there that are less costly and just as good, if not better, arguably. Look at Despotron. I've seen him for about $139, a significant price reduction when compared to the official. So, perhaps he's more up your alley. You could even go back as far as Apollyon, though he has a bit of a storied history, and we all know it. And of course you could get the KO version of something like MP36. That's fine too. It's a cheaper option. Why wouldn't you go for it if you can get it and it suits you? Though the argument could be made about the morality of supporting those kind of business practices, and that's not what I'm here to debate either. So what is the trends that I've seen besides for the price of official product going up? The second I've already sort of mentioned, and that's the prices of third-party products going down. It doesn't always happen, and sometimes we still get high prices, but we seem to be getting it less and less. And when we do have a high price, it really seems to be justified because it's something much more unique, and companies are doing something more unique because we've heard for a long time that the well of G1 is running dry. And that's why we have things like Galaxy Meteor, totally based on a different incarnation of Starscream. And we've had companies like Fans Hobby that have come on the scene and done things like the Masterpiece Monster Bots. Who saw that coming? Companies like Mass Toys come on the scene with their first offering, and you can get their Bumblebee for about $40. That's not bad for a third-party offering. Hot Soldiers is doing a great job in that Legends line for a relatively inexpensive price. Their Bumblebee, I think, is $17.99, as are many other offerings from them. These aren't the high prices that we tend to associate with third-party companies. In fact, they're way more reasonable. Now, yes, something like Arch Enemy goes for a hefty price of $124, but the most recent release of the pretty much equally sized MP10, at least here in my neck of the woods, came out for about $229. Almost $100 more for a figure of the same size. It's arguable whether or not that is worth it or not. And here's the third thing that I'm seeing. KO companies are beginning to shift a little bit from what I can tell. And these are companies like NBK, Jinbao, and most importantly, Jiang. We haven't really seen it from NBK or Jinbao, but we have started to see something change with Jiang. In the case of the first two, we're simply seeing good quality KOs. They're cheaper, but still made generally quite well. I don't have a lot of third-party or KO in my collection. In fact, in terms of KO, I've got a couple of cheaper dollar store type of versions, but I do have the Jinbao Nemesis Prime, and I did review him a while ago, and he even includes diecast, and I got him for $15. You can't really go wrong. But in terms of that last company, Jiang, here's what we're seeing that's interesting. They have made fantastic knockoffs. Great quality, oversized, MPP-10, MO1 Commander. But now they seem to be taking those profits and what they've learned about toy production and beginning to do their own designs. Things like the new Evolution Mega Master. A lot of people thought at first it was simply a KO of the MP36 Megatron, but it's not. It is scaled with the MPP-10, that oversized version, from what I understand, but it is really its own unique mold, still sold for, I believe, around $119. That's absolutely incredible and probably very much worth it. We also know that they have their own version of Omega Supreme coming up, and I guess we'll see how that works out. But again, compared to the very expensive, though fantastic, Fans Toys version, and the less expensive but still pretty pricey DX9 version, this one is evidently going to be much, much lower. And a lot of people, there's been a lot of chatter saying that, hey, he may be the one to get. We shall see how that pans out. Now, why do I cover all of that? I cover all of that because it brings me back to my initial question. Is the face of third-party toy collecting changing? We have first-party, official product going up in price. We have third-party beginning to look at lesser done characters. What TFC has been doing lately with their, I believe it's called Trinity Force, which is basically the G1 Autobot Target Masters done in a masterpiece style. That's pretty fantastic. We've even seen these same companies now doing things like legend size figures. War in Pocket, for example. Typically you get a couple of great figures in a set and they're relatively reasonably priced. We've seen the prices of other older figures going down. For example, Quantron. You can get that for a pretty reasonable cost now. Then you have something like Kingzilla that still clocks in at about $149, but it's huge and fantastic, so it's probably justified. You're seeing more effort go into engineering for higher priced items, and you're seeing prices lowered for older items. And I think part of the reason is because you have KO companies that are starting to kind of shift from KO a little bit into the third-party realm at a much reduced cost. So you have to be able to compete if you want to stay alive. Now, certain companies are still relying on their reputations. Fans Toys, for example. Their products are still expensive, but they do have a bit of a cult following, so perhaps it will still work for them. How long? I don't know. Is KO becoming the new face of third party? I don't think so. Not yet. And I think that the third-party companies that we do have established now, well, some probably will fall by the wayside. Others, more entrenched, will survive if they do things strategically correct. Which means, if you're going to still charge a high cost, you have to make sure that the production values are up there. Or you have to reduce costs, or you have to start looking at what else you can offer. Some places are going with inspirations from the Unicron trilogy. Other places are going with inspirations from things like Beast Wars. Look at Goria, for example. High price, but it looks fantastic. Then in between both of them, you have a company like Open and Play. Open and Play has only had a couple of offerings, and some label them as KOs, and some label them as third party, with their minimalist packaging and kind of oversized versions of molds that are at least very familiar and similar to ones that we know. Case in point, look at their Galvatron. Their Galvatron, a lot of people draw a lot of comparisons to the Titan's Return mold. And perhaps it's reasonable to do so, because it is very similar. But therein lies the genius, because they have just altered things enough that it probably falls under third party as unique engineering, even though it's very familiar. And because most of it is drawn from a couple of different sources that got meshed together, they didn't have to put so much cost and effort and time into the engineering design process. Since they also have minimalist packaging, that cuts down on the cost of packaging. And therein you get an option for a masterpiece scaled iteration of a character for about $60. Whether or not it's a good enough iteration, well, that's up to you as a collector yourself. I can see an argument either way, but the established companies, for as excellent as they are, can do one of two things. Either they can assume that their reputation will continue to take them through, as long as they don't rest on their laurels of toy production and high quality standards. Or they can look at it and say, we have companies like Open and Play, Jiang, and maybe soon enough KBB and NBK that are nipping at our heels, wanting a piece of the pie, so to speak, when it comes to the third-party collector. Will they get a foothold? We'll see as time goes on. But for now, I think it's very interesting to watch what evolves. So, you let me know. Am I totally out there? Am I being crazy? Is everything going to stay just as it always has? Or are we seeing the very early stages of a change in the third-party market for collectors? Will we see that become a much more attractive option as time goes on? For the record, since this is a review, I just wanted to say that regardless of everything that I've been curious about and asking about and kind of giving here as food for thought, I do think that the future of third-party collecting is very bright. Yes, the G1 well may be running dry, but we have a lot of other iterations that we can draw from. Case in point, Unique Toys Peru Kill based on the AOE version of Lockdown. And that thing, while it retails for about $124, is widely regarded as a fantastic entry. And as long as we have companies doing very different things like Action Toys and their Machine Robo series, or as the previously mentioned Fans Hobby and their Monster Bots, and with the rise of KO companies going into the third-party foray, I think that the added competition will make the cream rise to the top, will make the best companies work that much harder, and as such, I'm going to say that the future of third-party collecting is at least an 8. It's very bright. Maybe so bright that they gotta wear shades. Who knows? There's a lot that could be said here that I haven't because I want to keep this quick, but hopefully I've given you some food for thought, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the topic because I certainly am no expert on it. Hopefully this serves to kind of generate your thinking. And by all means, let me know because I'd love to hear from you. I always do. Anyway, that's kind of a question that I've wanted to ask the community for a long time. And hopefully I've structured it at least all right. For a real true kind of coverage of the future of third party, I have to be honest, Bobby Skullface done it best not that long ago, so that wasn't what I was here for. I was here solely to ask you guys if you think that the kind of rising popularity of certain KO companies that are making great quality products is something that will change the face and impact third-party collecting as we know it. Anyway, let me know what you think about everything that I've said here, everything that I've asked you about. Again, I'm going to say please hit that subscribe button, show a bit of love and support. Of course, let me know what you think, and I thank you very much for your very valuable time. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.